Hi trainers, SuperTeeds here, and today I'll be guiding you through the combat in Pokemon Unite. Pokemon Unite is a free-to-play, multiplayer, online, battle arena, MOBA for short. So, MOBAs might be a new genre to some of you, and it can be a little bit overwhelming with all the things new players have to learn. But I promise you, it's rather simple and I want to help you with all of that. In this video, I'll be teaching you special attack versus attack, combat strategies, teamfight positioning, and combat tips. I'm Teeds, I've played MOBAs for over 9 years, and my goal is to help you become the very best for Pokemon Unite. First, let's go through special attack and attack. There are two attack stats in Pokemon Unite. We have special attack, or SP.attack for short. Special attack directly affects your Pokemon moves. So moves are the abilities you get to use on every Pokemon. Then there is just normal attack. Normal attack affects your basic attacks. So Pokemon who are basic attack base will be stronger with basic attack moves. Simply, you want to build items that increase special attack on Pokemon who rely on their moves more, and you want to build items that increase attack on Pokemon who rely on their basic attacks more. In Pokemon Unite, there are various items that you can equip on your Pokemon, so paying attention to what kind of things they rely on is very important. There are also some Pokemon who use both, so you would build a mixture of special attack and attack items. While the game is not released yet, I cannot test what stat is best for each Pokemon, so once the game is out, I'll make a guide for every Pokemon with the best item builds for them. Another big difference between Pokemon is ranged and melee. Ranged Pokemon are those who can attack from a further distance, so those who can deal damage without being close to their targets. Melee Pokemon are those who need to be close to their targets to deal damage. Sometimes, Pokemons can have specific ranged or melee moves. Next, combat strategies. Pokemon Unite is not a game where you just want to press every move that you have up. Actually, with any MOBA, you don't want to just use what you have without thinking. MOBAs require a lot of strategy, and Pokemon Unite is no different. You'll want to strategically use your moves, and knowing when to fight or knowing when to retreat is very important. This all sounds like a lot, but it's actually very simple and something you'll improve on naturally as you keep playing the game. Crowd control, or CC, these are moves that can stun, slow, or impede enemy movement. It can also stop them from using their move. Crowd control moves are used for a number of things. In Pokemon Unite, they seem to call crowd control moves hindrances. A very crowd control heavy Pokemon is Ninetales. Ninetales has a lot of moves that apply slows to the enemy. Slows make it harder for Pokemon to move around, retreat, or chase their target. Another crowd control heavy Pokemon is Snorlax, who has knockbacks, knock-ups, and can also put enemy Pokemon to sleep, making them unable to do anything. Crowd control moves can be used in a number of different ways. It can be used to set up for yourself or your allies. Crowd control can set up enemy Pokemon, for example, by freezing them on the spot or slowing them. This makes it easier for you or your allies to hit their moves and keep them in longer in the area. If the enemy Pokemon has a hard time getting out, it's so much easier to hit other moves on that enemy Pokemon if they're just stuck in the same place or they're slowed. So basically, crowd control is super great to set up for your other moves on enemy Pokemon. Now, for escaping, crowd control is also a fantastic way to help you and your allies escape. You can knock them back, freeze them, slow them, etc., giving you time to retreat from dangerous enemies. This is great, especially for Pokemon who do not have any mobility moves. Crowd control is also a great way to peel enemies off your allies. Peeling is basically slowing down or preventing an enemy from attacking an ally. Usually these are done by defenders and supporters. If you see an ally in trouble, you can use your crowd control moves to prevent enemies using their moves on the ally in trouble. Next, we have AoE, which stands for Area of Effect. In Pokemon Unite, it is just called Area. Area of Effect moves affect multiple allies or enemies in one area. This is very different from single target moves. Single target moves only affect one target, but Area of Effect moves can affect lots of targets. Area moves are very important for fights with multiple targets and team fights. In team fights, you'll want to use area moves so you can hurt or affect multiple targets, turning the fight into your favor. A team fight is multiple members of your team and multiple members of the enemy team fighting against each other in one area. A great combo to use in team fights is using crowd control moves to keep them in the area of effect moves. The longer enemies are in area of effect moves, the more you can do to them. So basically you want to crowd control them and then you want to unleash all your damaging moves. Next, we have buffs and debuffs. Some Pokemon can apply buffs to their allies, which are status conditions that make you and or your allies stronger. Some Pokemon can apply debuffs to enemy Pokemon, which apply status conditions that make them weaker. You want to apply most of these buffs and debuffs during fights or before fights. Let's take Eldegoss for example. Eldegoss is a support Pokemon. Eldegoss is full of buffs for its allies and debuffs for the enemy. Eldegoss's move Leaf Tornado will deal damage to enemies, but it will also buff its ally by increasing its movement speed. At level 11, this move will also decrease the accuracy of enemy Pokemon it hits. That's a perfect example of a buff on an ally and a debuff on the enemy. So the buff here is increased movement speed for your ally, making them faster. This will help them with retreating or chasing. And basically the debuff is decreased accuracy for the enemy Pokemon, making it harder for them to hit their moves. Harassing and poking. This strategy is very important during the laning phase. The lane phase is usually early game, where you'll most likely be staying in your lane before any team fights happen. Harassing and poking is basically using ranged moves to hurt the enemy Pokemon. This means you are damaging the enemy without actually committing to a fight. What poking and harassing does is that it will lower their health, forcing them to retreat back to their goal zones. You can continue to poke and harass them, forcing them to retreat again even further. What this does is that it gives you access to their part of the lane safely. You can take the wild Pokemon on their side. It also gives you a safer access to their goal zones since they will not have the health to defend it. The next thing you need to know is when to fight and when to retreat. In MOBAs, it can be difficult to know when you have to fight and when the fight may not be beneficial for you and your team. Here are key points that will help you and your team decide. These are just general rules. Sometimes you can still win in these situations even if they are disadvantages, but we'll be looking at the risk and reward side of things. This is just to help you get started as a beginner. They have more on their team than your team. If you are with only one other ally or two and they have their whole team on their side, that fight may not be beneficial for you. You are more likely to lose because they have more on their team. But what if it's a 4v5? I've won many fights where it was a 4v5 before, but here are some things you should look out for if you're contemplating a 4v5. Did they use any of their important moves? Moves such as crowd control or unite moves, which are the strongest moves on your Pokemon's kit. If you know that they use these and your allies haven't, you have a small window where you are at a lower risk of losing. Do they have less health than you? Are any of their teammates damaged already? If the enemy has lower health, this is an advantage for your team because they're already easier to kill. Are their battle items down? Battle items can change the course of a fight. Depending on what they equipped, some battle items can literally save their lives. So if you know that they use these earlier, your team might be at an advantage. But with that, it's also a good idea to have an eye on your battle items and your team's battle items. If they are up, that's better for your team fight. Another thing you can do before a team fight is to try and poke them from a distance in an attempt to lower their health before a team fight happens. So again, the poke and harass strategy. If a team fight is going to happen, you want your frontliners to engage first. Frontliners are Pokemon who have a lot of endurance, so these Pokemon will generally be defenders and all-rounders. And lastly, for non-team fights, when to initiate and when to retreat. These are for 1v1s or 2v2s in your laning phase. You'll generally be paired up with someone else unless you're a Pokemon who's in the central area of the map, which is the middle area. Let's say your lane is one defender and one attacker. The defender is the one who will set up the moves for the attacker, so the attacker has an easier time getting damage off on the enemies. The attacker will focus on damaging the enemies. Sometimes the attacker will have a ranged move that has crowd control on it. This can set up for your defender to go in and follow up with their moves. Just like in team fights, try to see who has the advantage. Some Pokemon have stronger early game. This means that they can deal more damage earlier than you. Some Pokemon have stronger late game. This means they can deal more damage in the later stages of the game. This is something you'll learn over time. For example, Absol is very strong in 1v1 situations because of its high crit damage. Generally, you may not want to fight an Absol by yourself, at least early game, because Absol already deals so much damage. But as a defender, once you level up more and gain more stats, you may be able to tank Absol's damage and peel Absol off your allies while surviving yourself. Some melee Pokemon have a move or moves that will jump to their targets. This is what you call chasing or initiating. Initiating moves are moves you use that will put you in a fight, and at this point, you're committed to fighting this target. This is really important for 1v1s especially. These moves are generally called dashes. For example, Charizard has a move called Fire Punch. This move will launch forward to the target, dealing damage. If Charizard uses this move, it has no other way to escape other than using its Unite move. Generally, you don't want to use your powerful move to escape. Sometimes you'll have to, and that's okay, but you want to avoid it if you can. Because Charizard used its only move that can help it escape, Charizard has decided to commit to this fight. So it's important to know that some Pokemon only have one move that can help them escape. If you decide to use this in your fight, you'll have to make sure you're in a good position to fight. Another important strategy in combat is baiting. Baiting means tricking the enemy into using an important move, such as moves that help them retreat from fights, or moves that may turn the fight into their favor, like crowd control moves, or their strongest move, their Unite moves. This is especially important for 1v1 fights. Sometimes you want to scare the enemy into using their escape move, so when you actually do go in, they will not be able to escape from your damage. Some things to look at again that will help as you're learning: are their moves up, or ideally are their escaping moves down? Do they have less health than me or more health? Are their battle items down? Are any of their teammates nearby? Knowing where their teammates are is very important, because you do not want to be so pushed up in your lane, meaning closer to their goal zone, only to be ganked. Ganking is a surprise attack, so enemies who see that you are far out of position will move towards you, as the further you are on their side, the better the outcome for them. Being out of position means that you are far away from your base, safety of your goal zones, allies who could come and help you, and berries that can heal you. So I covered what I can with combat strategies. It looks like a lot, but I promise you, it's something that will improve so much better over time, and this is a great place to start. You're already ahead of a lot of players in Pokemon Unite with this knowledge. But one more of the biggest things that will help you decide to fight or not is if they have a wild Pokemon buff. Dreadnought is a Pokemon that grants the team who defeats it a shield. This whole team will get a defensive shield for a short time. This gives the team who has it an advantage, as now they will be harder to defeat. So my recommendation when this happens is to play passive, defend your goal zones, and do not leave them to fight. However, if your team is the one who has the Dreadnought buff, use it to your advantage and push hard into the enemy's side. Next is team fight positions. This will always vary from game to game and obviously doesn't always work this way, but a good rule of thumb to follow is defenders and all-rounders as your front line. Try and have the defender tank the enemy damage more than the all-rounder. Attacks and supporters in the back line. Attackers should be dealing the damage, and supporters healing or buffing the allies who need it. And speedsters should look for picks. They can either come as a surprise attack or try and get into the back line by either using a battle item or their initiate. Speedsters can focus on dealing more damage or taking out the ones in the back line. But that's just a basic concept of what a team fight should look like. It can always change, and your strategies might be very different when you learn more. Lastly, combat tips. These are just some tips or things summarized that we went through to help you remember them. Do not be pushed up in lane alone without knowing where your enemies are. Positioning is important. Don't stay in places that are dangerous. If you're a Pokemon with low endurance, try and stay behind your frontliners. Defenders and supporters should protect their allies where they can, and if someone has to sacrifice themselves, it's better the defenders than the attackers. Defenders and supporters need to make sure their attackers can retreat safely. Know when to retreat. If your team is looking battered up and you can safely get out, take that opportunity. Defenders need to make sure their allies are ready to attack before they initiate. Defenders can check this by making sure allies are all close by before fighting. Avoid fights if the enemy team has a significant buff like the Dreadnought shield. That seems like a lot, right? I really hope this helps you. As a MOBA player, I know how overwhelming it can be to learn a whole new genre, but I promise you, you're going to do great, and I cannot wait to teach you many things. If you'd like more Pokemon Unite guides, news, and gameplays, please do subscribe and click the bell. Like the video if you found this helpful. Let me know in the comments what kind of videos you'd like to see on Pokemon Unite. I have many other guides, great for beginners, which I will link here and down below. Thank you so much for watching, trainers. Bye!